Okay, so what's the process, Bob, that you go through when someone orders? They want a line or sculpt arrangement. Show us what you do in
Well,
the shop here.
start with the selection of the container.
Okay.
It should be, it can be tall, but it's better to be low.
Okay.
And you've got to use Oasis.
Okay.
You've got to soak that.
Okay. So let's
And so
take me through. Let's take us through that process.
Yeah. So organized chaos.
Organized chaos. Because you know where everything is in this shop, I am almost positive about
Yes,
that.
if I don't, it's a rarity. I got to get a liner.
Okay.
Go in here. And what I do is take these
Look at that. What is that?
extra creamy whip topping
No way.
containers, and I have people that save them for me that use a lot.
No kidding.
I spray paint it.
Oh
do a
man,
liner.
look at that. All right, so so this is really interesting because if you're, let's say, someone who wants to be a floral designer or someone who owns a flower shop right now, and they catch this video, this is a way you can really save a ton of money.
Oh yeah, because
Okay.
the liners today now, plastic's very expensive. People don't know that plastic is a byproduct of gasoline,
Oh, very interesting. So,
petroleum.
all right, interesting.
Okay, then you've got to get a
Spray painted that thing. That's amazing. So Oasis here.
Oasis. This is a block of Oasis,
Okay.
and it comes divided into 3 sections.
Okay.
So you either use a third or a half when you're doing your work, and I've got some here that are a third. It has holes on one side, which means that ought to be up when you put it in the water and let it soak under its own steam.
So don't push it. You don't want to push it down.
Push it down. Let it soak under its own, and the holes allow the air to escape that's in the foam.
Oh, okay. So that's why you lay it down with the holes
Holes
up.
up, right.
So the air comes back through
Yep.
as it submerges into the water. I see
the
how
water pushes the air out.
that's really interesting. Okay. All right. So that's completely
would-
soaked. Now, how much weight will a piece of like, that didn't weigh very much. I mean, I picked that up. That's pretty light.
It holds 10 times its weight in water.
10 times its weight in water. I mean, that is super light when you pick it up.
But look, feel
Pretty
of
heavy.
that.
That's wow.
That weighs a couple of pounds.
Yes, it does. So it went from air to just tremendous amount of water. So
This is the Oasis tape.
So this is waterproof on the outside. The green part
Yep.
is waterproof, and it is quite sticky. I know, working and helping in the flower shop as a young boy, I think I did this a lot.
That probably.
Oh yeah, I did that a lot. Trust me.
And we tape it in so it won't fall out in delivery.
And you're gonna always do a cross tape.
Most of the time. Sometimes it depends on the container and how the foam fits in it.
Okay. Well, that fits right in that basket pretty solid there.
And I add preservative water. It has preservative in it that's been pre-mixed.
That's pre-mixed in the 5-gallon bucket there. So that's myrtle? you
Myrtle.
said? Okay. So as you work through this line arrangement, and obviously you can switch. You can as you work through this arrangement, I'm going to ask you some questions about how you started out with your education, because what are the educational opportunities that you had growing up? I mean, was there such thing as going to a floral school to learn how to design? I mean, how did you start out at a high school?
There were a few. Well, see, I decided in the 10th grade in high school that I was going to go into the flower business. So I enrolled, well, I wanted to take the design courses at NC State, but the dean wouldn't allow you in the School of Design unless you were an architectural student.
Huh.
So,
and you wanted to go into School of Design because?
I wanted the art classes.
Oh, you wanted the design background.
Yeah, I wanted the art design background.
Okay.
So, I said, okay, then I'll just enroll as an architectural student until I get all those courses, which was 2.5 years.
Okay.
And then I switched to horticulture. And after that, I went into service for 2 years. And when I got out, I came back and went to work for a flower shop, believe it or not, in Cary.
Huh.
Stayed here from August till December, and then I went to New York and worked there for a while. I hated the place. I was in Bronxville, which is at that time was the richest per capita square mile in the U.S. They were very wealthy. A lot of
right.
Wall Street brokers and whatever.
What did you like about New York?
Well, it was just the experience.
Right.
It wasn't so much that they did a lot different. It was a very upscale flower shop.
Right.
So they did a lot of party work and.
Do you feel like the design, the experience in designing at that scale? Because obviously,
well, it was a benefit, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary in a shop.
Right. Okay.
We just did more of it.
Got it. Okay.
And so then,
right. So the volume of it was what was
right.
was the real benefit takeaway.
And so they 2 weeks after I got there, they put me in competition at the Coliseum in New York. It was an international flower show, and I had to do an exhibit for home view using orchids.
Okay.
And so I had to do it 3 times in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I did end up winning 2 silver and a gold medal for those venues.
All right.
But the pressure up there was horrendous. And being from Podunkville, North Carolina, I couldn't take it. So I promised God if he would let me cross the George Washington Bridge coming home, I would never go back.
Got it. So
and
it was
I
really
haven't except to fly in and fly out.
Okay. So take us through this line arrangement.
Okay. I've established my points of interest: the height, the width, and the depth.
Okay.
And so I'm going to follow that, and I'm going to use
And you're going to basically stay within the parameters
of this. Yes, it will end up with a concave line here and here and here.
Okay.
And that's what makes the sculpture that. I'm using gradation. I've taken my snapdragons and I'm grading them out according to size to place them in the proper place.
So you've already done that on the table here.
Yeah.
I see. So you're
So
that's
I'm
like a
using-
prep.
And people ask me, how do you know where to cut them? Well, you've got to see it and feel it. You'll never be a floral designer if you can't see it and feel it, and you may not even know what you're doing, which most of the time I don't.
So it's more. So there has to be a visualization part of. You got to kind of visualize what you'd like to happen.
Some degree, but
to a
it
degree.
won't come out that way. It'll always come out differently.
Got it. Of course.
What I visualize never happens.
Got
And
it.
I'm sometimes astounded at what does happen, but I don't worry with that. That's something that the good Lord gave me as a talent, and it just happens. So I'm putting the third snapdragon in. I'm going to expand on the depth.
This is really looking more like a three-dimensional.
Exactly.
Uh,
Carnation hasn't opened, but you can squeeze the calyx around and around and fluff it.
So the calyx is the bottom part of that carnation.
This is the calyx here, and you squeeze that to loosen the petals.
And just look at that, it just fluff right out like it's been opened.
And you can just open it right up. Now, it has to be at a certain stage to do this. A really tight bud, you have to wait till it opens a bit.
So it needs to be at least, say, you know,
Half
this
open.
open here.
At least half open.
At least half open. Because you can damage the calyx too much.
Well, it'll split.
It'll
And then
split.
it'll fall apart.
That's interesting. Okay. Great word.
Now, a lot of times I will use the foliage. I'll pop out the piece that has been cut off and use
Oh, okay.
the foliage.
Waste
Adds
not, waste
interest
not,
to
want
the
not,
arrangement.
right? That's like a 2-for-1. You
Yep.
use the flower head, and then you use the bottom, this foliage. Would you say that that would be more of an artistic thing
Right.
to use the whole carnation, not
Oh,
just
yeah.
to not.
Most people throw that in the garbage can, but I use it. It kind of fills up space.
Oh, speaking of using flowers out of a garbage can, you have to tell the story of how you you were in town doing a wedding, and you were short an extra boutonniere
And a corsage.
and a corsage.
and
Okay, so
they-
tell that story.
The bride had failed to give me the correct number. So I went to a local florist and asked him, could I get a few flowers to make a corsage? And they said, yeah, go on back to the refrigerator and get what you need. So on my way back there, I happened to glance in the garbage can, and they had thrown away enough for me to make the boutonniere and the corsage out of, and they were perfectly good flowers.
They were in the trash can,
They were in the trash can.
so you didn't even make it to the cooler. You just
Exactly.
looked in the. Now what? Why would you ever, like most people walking to the cooler, they wouldn't think to look down at the trash can. What made you look down?
It was in my way. So, I had no choice. I had a young man that worked for me for a while, and he left and went to a shop where he became manager.
Okay.
And one day at the end of the day, he went in and he noticed all of these flowers and foliages that had been thrown away in the garbage can. So he meticulously picked them out. The next morning, he had them laid out on the table. And when the staff came in, he said, I want to tell you all something. You're wasting too much stuff. Bob Strother could have made 3 weddings out of what you all have thrown away.
Oh, that's really good.
I also used the foliage from the rose
Okay, interesting. Right.
to
just-
fill in.
Right. Okay.
And
So
that
almost-
saves the bulk foliage.
That's it. It
'Cause it's
actually looks like it's a
perfectly good.
part of it. Didn't even come off the rose.
Right.
yet.
Well, that's the artistry. You put it in there so it looks like it's never been removed. And this I'm spraying with Green Glow, which is a lactic solution made from the rubber tree plant.
the rubber tree plant.
Yep.
Okay. And what does that green glow do to the foliage?
It shines up the foliage and makes it look fresher.
Kind of like when you put tire shine on
Now
tires.
there is the,
Oh, okay, so that's
called a line, a sculptured arrangement. And now I'm going to finish it off with the foliage.
so this has very little foliage in it already, other
Right.
than what you've used off maybe the rose and
The
the carnation.
foliage becomes your picture frame. It frames the arrangement and makes it outstanding.
So that's the Baker fern. That's a classic foliage you use every day.
Oh yeah.
That's almost like a staple, like bread, milk.
Most florists hate it and I love it. And
Now, why
one
is
florist told me that I had almost persuaded her to like Baker the way I used it.
almost persuaded?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it's a lot of times
If that's
it's
for me, I can take it. Marketing.
it's almost as if there's not really a bad foliage or bad flower out there. It's really how you use it and present it in
It's
an arrangement.
people's taste.
Okay. Talk to us about taste.
Yes, and a lot of people don't have taste.
Oh my gosh.
They have to buy it.
They have to buy it?
They buy their taste. They go to the right places to get the things they
Okay.
want and need.
Interesting. So talk to us about different types of tastes that you've experienced.
Foliage.
No, just foliage, flowers.
Well, there are people that think that certain things can't be used. When I first started in the business, they wouldn't dare put roses in anything other than sterling silver or crystal.
And why is that?
Well, because of the elegance of the flower, they thought it would be degrading to put it in something less.
Wow, okay.
And so I changed that. I said, no, you can use roses in baskets or whatever.
Hmm.
And
You are a rebel.
yes, I was.
I think
They
the,
had all
I
these
think
rules, like the garden club said you can only use 3, 5, 7, 9 odd number flowers in arrangement. And I said, why? And so I refuted that. I began to use 2, 4, 6, and 8 instead. And so it's the way you arrange them and where you place them in the arrangement as to whether, for instance, you notice I used 2 roses
okay.
and 2 alstroemeria, but look where they're placed. I did use 3 carnations and 5 snapdragons.
Now, when you chose the flowers earlier in the cooler, were you already thinking that route?
Yes.
So take us through what you
and
were.
it comes with my many years 60 years in the industry. It sort of comes natural. I mean,
Well, now it's automatic.
Yeah,
But I talk about teaching tennis and automating your patterns of play, but it takes time. But you've got to do it over and over and over and over
exactly.
again.
And you can't just follow any old procedure and it come out right. It has to be step by step by step, 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than 1, 5, 2, 7.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit, because when you go step by step, that's more of the science behind the design, and then how does that merge with the art?
Well, I'm not sure. If you're following a form of structure,
Okay.
then it's going to line up
Okay.
and it'll do it automatically if you're doing step 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
But you can't do step 1 and step 5.
I see. So you have to lay out the foundation first,
Right.
and then the creativity is built upon the foundation.
That is correct.
Kind of like building a house.
Yes.
Got to have a firm foundation, or the creativity is just going to look like a bunch of just slop.
Well, and a lot of people will achieve just that. When they get through, they had no rhyme or reason why they did what they did, and so it looked like that. It's kind of a hodgepodge.
So that's kind of what you would consider the difference between maybe someone who is in the flower business,
a designer and a poker.
Oh, okay. It's the science behind the design is what really separates how arrangements look, whether they look like they were almost thrown together versus they were actually have some sort of they have an artistic design pattern to them.
I mean, if you don't have some reason why you're doing something, it's not going to turn out.
So what are you doing here in the back? You're using the Baker fern.
I'm finishing it off so that it has a pleasant look from the rear as well as from the front. But I'm not using any flowers, just the foliage.
So you're actually picking off larger pieces at the bottom of that Baker.
Yeah.
And then sort of filling in.
And if you notice, it's kind of a rosette effect.
So there is even designing the back of arrangement,
yes,
especially this one, like this is called more of a sculpt arrangement.
Yeah.
There is a sense of design for the foliage as well.
Correct, because if it goes to a home, the people are going to see the back of it as well as the front of it. And I've always stressed that is very important. You see there?
Right. So no matter which way you turn it, there is some element to it that's pleasant to look at.
Right. From any angle. And that's what makes an arrangement interesting, is how the flowers are placed. Even an all-around arrangement, it depends on the texture and the shape and the color of the flower as to its relationship one to the other.